Hello there, my name is Alice and welcome to my channel. So for those of you that have been following my channel for a while, you know that in the last few years I have recently really fallen off YouTube. I've taken a big break. I've had a lot of discouragement happen to me and a lot of things in my own life, and I just really haven't felt creative or excited about YouTube videos in a really long time. But I would really like to change that. So today I thought that it would be really nice for me to go back to my roots. So if you look at my YouTube channel, one of the things that I started with was doing challenges. I was really big on doing like challenges, 2-marker, 3-marker challenges. I just thought they were really fun and a really nice way to try out different color combinations and things like that that you might not normally use. And those were things that a lot of y'all came to my channel for. And I thought that it might be a really good way for me to get reconnected back to past Hello Alice and maybe be re-inspired for creating some more content for you guys. So I hope that you're excited about that idea. So that's what we're gonna do today. We're gonna do a old school 3-marker challenge. So I'm gonna get a bunch of my markers. I have so many markers, so I'm probably just gonna pick ones all by one brand instead of doing literally all my markers because they won't fit into a bowl. And I'm gonna get a blindfold and we're gonna pick out 3 different colors and we're gonna make a piece with those colors. Okay, so I have this bowl of all my Ohuhu markers, which were neatly organized by color, and they're now going to have to be reorganized, but it's fine because my sacrifices are for you. So yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and blindfold myself. I have this thong, headband, whew, my nose, okay. Okay, let's go. Some of these are probably gonna fall on the floor, but that's okay. Those are just the ones that aren't gonna get picked. 1 down, 2 down. We're gonna go with this guy. I don't know what color that one is. Ah, fall on the floor. I'm just eliminating the competition. This guy, here, all the pens dropping, this guy. And we're gonna go with this guy. All right, let's see what we got. Oh, there's so many pens on the floor. 2 yellows and a gray. I do like yellow and gray as my color scheme. The colors that I got are Y030 Lemon Chiffon, CG204, which is Cool Gray 24, and YR34 Yellow. So we're going yellow and gray today. So I'm gonna go ahead and get some paper and we'll start making some art. Okay, so I was going to record the sketch for you, but I thought I hit the button and apparently I didn't, which is a theme through this video in one way or another, so let's just apologize in advance for that. But this is my sketch, and then these are a close-up of the colors that I got. I decided to do something with yellow flowers, and I originally thought I was going to make her face fully gray, although I did end up changing that a little bit. But I thought that would be a pretty kind of thing to play around with. I decided to do a face. In hindsight, I was like, oh, maybe I could have done a sky or something because yellow and gray would have worked really well for that. But at the same time, I feel like it's kind of more of a challenge to do something that's not necessarily naturally going to be using yellow and gray for, like a face. So I kind of am glad I went with that because I think in hindsight it's a little bit more of a challenge than doing something that naturally works with those colors, if that makes sense. One of the reasons I really do like challenges that limit your color palette is because it pushes you to try things that you might not have tried before, and I think I got some kind of cool results actually by doing that. Also, at one point, there was a splatter that appeared. I think it was when I opened the dark yellow, and it just splattered all over the painting, but I didn't stress about it. I figured that if you could still see the splatters at the end and they bugged me, I would just intentionally splatter more stuff on top of it. If you make a mistake, generally the best thing to do is to not panic and just figure out how you can work with it. So I didn't worry about it. I just kept going with my art, and at the end you couldn't really tell, so I didn't bother doing any more splattering. For the flowers, the way that I created them was I layered down that pale yellow, and then I went in with some darker yellow for the shading, and I mixed in some gray as well to create the center parts. Then I'm using a colorless blender because I do use colorless blenders in my 3 marker challenge. In my opinion, they're just blending. It's no different than water in watercolor because it does dry to be completely see-through. When I put it on, it might look a little light gray, but it definitely dries to be completely clear. It's just basically isopropyl alcohol. So I used that to kind of try to re-add in the highlights, because one thing a colorless blender does is, even though you can also blend things, which was super helpful for blending the light yellow with the white of the page, you can also kind of push away the colors. So you can go through and add your colorless blender to lighten certain areas. And I do that a lot, essentially lifting the ink off. It kind of actually, I say lifting, but it really more just pushes it into the paper. But it lightens it that way. It's kind of weird, but it's a cool effect, and I found it really useful. I also used some dark gray to establish some cast shadows, and then went back over that with the yellow so that it wasn't too dark. I felt like it was important to make sure I had those little cast shadows in there so that the flowers looked 3D, although I kind of messed it up at first and made it a little too dark, but I think it worked out okay in the end. Oh, these flowers were a lot. I kind of started putting in all of the base color of them after a while, because I was like, I'm bored of working on this one flower at a time. And then I kind of was just like, I need to move away from the flowers. So I decided to go in and start work on some of the face and the hair. I wanted her eyes to be yellow and the hair to be gray. I knew that because I thought the gray would be a nice contrast against the yellow of the flowers in her like hair, flower crown, whatever it is. So I started with that. And again, I'm using the colorless blender to add in a lighter area for the strands. And then I went back over with the darker gray to add in more definition and kind of like those strands. So now I'm going back to the flowers. As you can see, I kind of work around the whole piece. The reason for this, normally I work around the whole piece because I find it's most helpful to establishing a uniform kind of aspect to it. But for certain pieces like markers or colored pencils, I don't necessarily do that. For that reason, I'll work around the whole piece because I get bored, because I feel like it's so time consuming to use markers or pencils versus paint. So I'm like, I get bored. So that's why I decided to move on to the face. I wanted to start with just gray because originally I wanted to see if I could do the face in just gray, but the gray was just a little too dark to blend out properly the way that I wanted it to. So I decided to add in yellow for the kind of like mid-tone, and I actually think the yellow and gray look really cool together and very unique. It's nothing that I would ever use to paint or color a skin in like my life that I could think of, you know? And I actually think it created a really, I don't know, cool look. And I'm like, maybe I'll try using that again. Maybe I'll try using weird colors just to play around with faces and things like that. Feel like there was almost kind of like a vintagey vibe to it in a way. And I was really happy that I decided to go in and add that yellow. I was really scared when I first added it. I was like, oh no, is this going to completely ruin things? But I was already stressed out about how the gray was blending. So I was like, well, I don't have a lot to lose because I'm already like not vibing with this. So this is where the next mistake happens. So like I said at the beginning, I forgot to hit the record button for the sketch. And in the second half, I forgot to turn my autofocus off. Normally I have it set to manual focus so it stays focused on the art and doesn't refocus on my hand, but unfortunately I forgot, and I still wanted to bring you guys this art, so I am speeding through the second half a little bit more than the first half, just because of that focusing issue, but hopefully it's not too bad for y'all. But this part is still a pretty similar technique to what I was doing at the beginning. As you can see, I'm still working on those flowers. I like to make sure that I kind of, if I want to blend something, I try to start away from it and move towards it with the brush so that you kind of have lighter strokes towards the end, and that's going to make it easier for you to blend in. Also, I find that it's very hard to completely get rid of like brush strokes when you're working with markers, even though they do blend out pretty well. And so, what I would recommend doing is just making sure that your brush marks are intentional and are going to go with the direction of the face or the flower or the hair, whatever it is that you're coloring. Just keep in mind that your brush marks are probably going to be visible. And so by being intentional with those, they look visible in a good and aesthetic and helpful way versus a distracting way. If you are in a situation where you don't have a colorless blender, you don't want to use a colorless blender, whatever, you can use your lightest color to blend things in as well. I'm using the light yellow to blend in the flowers a lot. So that's also a helpful trick that you can use. I know some people kind of view using a colorless blender as cheating in the 3 marker challenge, but I've always done it. And to be completely honest, I don't really want to hear it. So if you think that's cheating, that's fine. Keep your opinion to yourself because, in my opinion, it's just a blending tool. And I think most sets come with them nowadays. Like I said, these are the Ohuhu markers, and I find them to be really nice and easy to use, and they're definitely the most budget-friendly option. I do recommend if you want to get into markers, I definitely recommend the Ohuhu brand as your best starting point, but I would also recommend making sure you go ahead and get brush markers. They're so much nicer than chisel and bullet ones. I hardly ever use the chisel side of markers, and I just find that the brush side is way easier to create those smooth blends that most people are looking for, and you can get much smaller lines and finer lines with it too. A bullet point is nice. I personally think that a bullet point plus brush is like the best way to go, but most of them are chisel nibs and brush, which is what it is. For the flowers in the background and the foreground, these like larger ones, I decided to go with gray because I thought it would help it recede into the background and be a nice contrast against her skin and against the flowers. So I went ahead and did that. Because I wanted them pure gray, they aren't going to be as blended as, for example, the skin or the yellow flowers because I only had one tone of gray and the blend, like colorless blender to try to blend it in. But I was able to figure out like a decent technique. And honestly, I found it was best to just lift more of the highlights than to actually try to blend the color out by adding in more of that gray and then lifting it. I was able to get a better blend than just trying to blend out the edges. I don't know if that made any sense. I really hope it did. I'm trying to give y'all some advice and tips on how I use markers. So I hope it's been helpful. But yeah, we are getting towards the end of this piece now. And this is kind of what I created with those 3 markers that I picked blindly. I think it came out pretty cute and it made me excited about the idea of making art again for YouTube. So that's good. And yeah, I hope that you liked this little throwback. If you have anything else that you would like to see me make, please let me know. I am a little stuck for ideas right now, especially if it's like kind of an older video or an older idea that you'd like to see me redo or remake. That's kind of fun and it might be nice for me to reconnect with my roots even more. So I hope that you all like this video. Thank you so much for still being here and for still sticking with me. It really means the world to me. And if you like this video, then please subscribe, leave a comment down below, give it a thumbs up. They really help me because YouTube straight up just like doesn't even tell my viewers that I upload anymore. And the algorithm definitely doesn't like me. So any of that stuff really helps me out right now. And I hope this video was useful and helpful for you. The last little thing that I did was I did apply some white gel pen just to add in the highlights in her eyes and a little bit of shine on her lips, and then I signed it. So thank you again for watching. I love y'all. Oh, and definitely don't forget to come to my Twitch streams. I stream 5 days a week over on twitch.tv/HelloAlice, and it's a really, really fun time. So thank you so much again. I've said that 3 times. I'm going to go now, and I will see you in the next video. Thanks for watching, and as always, have a great rest of your day. Bye, guys.